About Mackenzie's age, I was in church school every week. But I wondered, how does God speak? What's he saying? Why doesn't he speak to us like he did then? Did you ever wonder that? Oh, I sure did. And I was confused. And ultimately, that was the reason I went to theological school at Newton. What is God saying? How does he operate? It wasn't until about 40 years ago that I got one of the jars of my life. Not in this church, but in Massachusetts. A woman came up to me after church in the midst of a group of people. And she said, Reverend Button, I've been listening to your sermons for the last 6 weeks, and you haven't said anything. Did you imagine experiencing that? Well, my brain went blank, and everybody that was standing around me disappeared very quickly. So I got a chance to talk to the woman. Esther is her name. And Esther told me that what she wanted to hear every week was that God answers prayer. Do you believe that? She said. Do you believe that? I said, well, I believe that, but I don't experience that very often, as much as I'd like to. Well, she disappeared. I began to get chest pains. I went to the doctor across the street, and he said, there's nothing wrong with your heart. You must be under some kind of stress. If you only knew. Well, I didn't leave it there. I decided I'd go back to Newton and talk to the head of the psychology department, Dr. John Bolinsky. Brilliant man. I asked him what I should do about this woman. And he said the problem is that the woman is right. He said, would you like to experience God on a daily basis? And I said, oh, yes, I would. That's why I came to seminary. He said, the only way that I know that you can have that kind of experience is through the dream. Was I shocked? 2 graduate degrees from that university, and nobody ever told me that. Well, I went right into therapy with a dream interpreter who was a pastoral counselor. And within 2 months, it was clear that God was speaking through my dreams. Ultimately, I was able to go back to Esther and talk to her and explain it to her. And she was moved. In fact, one time when I was a minister here, she came and sat right there at the pew. What's so amazing is that just after I experienced this, I began working on a doctorate of ministry degree at Newton. And they asked me to come in because they wanted to talk about what I would write as a thesis for my doctorate degree. I went in with all kinds of ideas in mind, and they said, we're going to pick the subject. Whoa. What do you least like about the ministerial role? I said, administration. I don't like that. Well, that's what you're going to write your thesis on. Only you're going to do it different. You're not going to do any research. You're going to do it by asking the question and see where the dreams lead you. Wow. And sure enough, they led to the answer. And it was an extremely moving experience. But it fit right in with seek and you shall find, knock, and it will be open to you. Dreams open the way to have what God wants from us. That's what I found. In 45 years of working in this field with some of the best dream interpreters in the world, there are 3 things I'd like to pass on to you this morning. They put it kind of in a nutshell about what dreams are about. Now don't get me wrong, there's a lot more to it than these 3 things. But if you want to give it a chance, I suggest you try these 3 methods. And the first is respect the dream. Some of you have seen this in my office. It's a little box. I think it parallels what a dream is. Let me have it. The dream is trying to reveal itself. Sometimes we think that they are so hidden that they really don't want to be found out. But in reality, they want you to know exactly what they're saying. But you've got to respect it and do not minimize the dream. One of the greatest dream interpreters that I've ever heard of made the statement that God comes to you as a still, small voice. And if you don't hear it, it comes as a dream. And if it still is ignored, it comes as a nightmare. And if you still don't hear it, it comes as an illness or an accident. Think about it. When I was raised, you had nightmares because you had too much popcorn and Coke before you went to bed. Whoa, off base that is. But I learned. Respect the dream. And if you want to respect it, the best thing you can do is to write it down. Somehow it likes that when you write it down because it frees you to be able to stand back and look at it more objectively. Most of us say, well, I had this dream, and if we don't write it down, you'll notice that it escapes from you pretty quickly unless it is a rare powerhouse. First, respect the dream and write it down. Second, remember there are 2 different kinds of dreams. It's important to be able to separate the 2. The first is the outer dream. Now, the outer dream is a predictive dream. That's the kind we hear about. Somebody had a dream and it happened. When you have a dream and you wonder if it's an outer predictive dream, check the details in the dream. And if they're exactly what you're going to be facing, be careful. Heed the warning. A lady in the parlor next door, in one of the first classes that I taught, some of you were here at that class, might remember that she told of a dream that she had that was so haunting and scary that she told her husband, and he minimized it. So we're going to be going on vacation in a couple of days, don't worry about it. She had the same dream the next night, only in more vivid detail. She was so frightened she almost didn't go to work with him. They owned a precious metals shop in Wilmington. At 5 minutes of 5, just before they were ready to leave on vacation, the dream unfolded just the way she dreamt it. 2 men came in with arms, aimed them at her husband, robbed the shop, and shot her husband.